Well, a little bit about myself. From the beginning, I was born in a little town called Avenger, Texas, and lived there in the country with 11 siblings. And we moved from there, different places, and wound up in Dangerfield, Texas, where after graduation I was drafted in the military. And it was exciting, I guess. Well, I was born in 1950, so I was not a Korean War veteran, but later on my oldest brother was a Korean War veteran. Uh, it progressed from there, and as far as what I learned in the military and what I learned when I went to Korea, I really enjoyed it. My wife, I met and married her there in the early 70s. And they were, the units I was in, well, first when I got there was a medical depot. And then after I stayed there 13 months, that was a tour. Was a 13-month tour and the initial tour. Then I left and came back to the States. And then I was in the States for about maybe a little over a year and then went back to Korea for 12 months. But then I was extended because of the circumstances that happened for another 6 months. So that tour was 18 months. So that's given me nearly 3 years.
How old were you whenever you were drafted?
I was 18 when I was drafted. I didn't immediately go to Korea. I took a detour and went to Vietnam, but that's not the subject we're getting into. I went to Korea in September of 71.
So you had already kind of known about Korea and what had already happened as your brother was there.
Yes.
Did he ever speak of his experience? Did he talk about
He,
it?
yes, he would to me, being that I was in the military and he was Army as well. So he wouldn't talk about a lot of it. And I understood that because him being in one war, me with another one, that was a total difference as well. Um, there are situations that he went through that I did not. Uh, but then he done his 6 years. He got out. He went work for White Sands Missile Range. He passed away probably 7, 8 years ago, and by that time, it was a year or two after that I joined this unit uh, in remembrance of him and all Korean veterans because we always have something in common. It's called military, brothers and sisters, and I don't think you'll find any better friendship members that will stick with you. You can call on them for anything. You could tell them your life story. You could tell them your ups and downs, and it relates.
Were you nervous to go to Korea? I mean, since you had heard about what your brother had been through, what was your impression whenever you arrived there, or whenever you found out you were going to be
Excited.
stationed?
The best word, excited. Was I nervous? No. My nervousness had already chilled out of me in '69 when I come back. So I'd already been through being nervous. So as far as, and when I went to supply depot, which is medical supply, you know, I'm in cantonment or in back area. My experience, and after my second tour when I was there, I was at the DMZ, the 1st and 9th Infantry Unit, and the 1st and 23rd Unit in the cantonment area. So was I nervous then? No, not really. Again, not really. In 1975, June, we went on full-scale alert. because that some North Koreans decided they didn't like the U.S. and South Koreans going in to cut a tree out of the line of sight of camera, well not cameras, so we could see the other side through the DMZ. So they sent their troops across and they killed a major and 4 or 5 other soldiers. That's the reason why that they wasn't on full-scale alert. That was the first scary, I guess you'd say, moment that I had then. But after that, it didn't bother me.
And what military unit were you involved with?
There I was with the 1st and 9th and the 1st and 23rd Infantry units. That's right there at that point. That was in '75. But my other units, I was in the medical unit, doing the medical supply. Again, that was my first tour. When I left there, I come back to the States, and I was in Fort Riley, Kansas, and then I was there approximately a year, I guess, and then I went back to Korea for my final tour there. Did I want to get out? No. My deal is I love Korea. I loved it the first month I was there. I didn't want to leave, but yet because of military duty, they made us go anyway.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your responsibility or the duty that you had whenever you were stationed in Korea?
Such as?
Like you said, you worked with the medical unit. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you had to do?
That, working in supplies, do resupply for requests that would come in for medical equipment or clothing, so forth and so on. It's kind of like a big warehouse, I guess you'd say. But we had data machines there instead of computers. Didn't know what a computer was. They used data cards. And so my job was to fill a request and then put the data sheet and the cards together and file.
Sorry, excuse me. How are the relationships between the soldiers, between you and other U.S. soldiers or even Korean soldiers? Were you able to build any friendships? I know you met your wife, but did you make any friendships with any of the foreign troops?
Yes, I got along with everybody. Mama taught us kids that, why go through life in a serious note as a frown on your face? Make people happy. God says you love everybody. You ain't got to love what they do or say, but that's a requirement. My thinking, my own being is because of my mama.
And how are the living conditions in Korea as far as sleeping arrangements, your clothing, food?
Well, normal as far as the American side of the house, and then I got used to the Korean food, which is kimchi and so forth and so on. Living in the barracks was kind of like living at home with open doors. When you got 20 some odd people living in the same room. It got monotonous sometimes, but hey, we all got along. We had to.
And do you recall about how much you were getting paid?
When I first started out, it was somewhere about $115, $119 a month. Out of that, they took out taxes. Out of that, I had a $6.25 savings bond per month, which was a $25 savings bond at that time. That money went to my mama because her raising 6 of 13 kids at home when my daddy passed away in 1964. So she was struggling. But I can tell whoever, if you trust God, you're gonna make it, period.
Sounds like a really tough woman to be able to do that. What were the contributions made by the U.S. military in Korea post-53? Like, what was the differences mainly between, maybe like whenever your brother served, whenever you served? What were some of the extreme differences that you noticed?
They were more in well, they was a support role, but they took over support role, I guess you'd say, into a combat role for him being from there. Versus my tours, we were in the support role, almost totally. If they, we still would not allow, we wouldn't allow anyone to override the Koreans, and that's because of even as today with stuff going on in the world, U.S. is going to take care of the Friends.
While you were there, did you notice Korea developing and growing?
Yes.
And can you explain that a little bit to me?
Going from Quonset hut, living quarters in adobe type houses, to modernized houses, very, you don't see very many of those. Mm-hmm. The old, what they call traditional houses. They have pretty much deleted them except on tour places that they still have them as a tourist attraction. Mm-hmm. Where that they had andal floors or heated floors that in the old style. They still have them, but they're not run by wood or charcoal. The modernization of is just like here in the States. It reminds me of my homes when I growed up in old farmhouses where you look through the floor and see the ground, versus the houses we have now. It's got carpeted, air conditioners, and so forth and so on.
And was Korea still recovering from the war whenever you were there? And if so, how?
They were there. At that time, a lot of it. But again, you transition in 20 some odd years, or 22 years later, they're transitioning and getting out of. Now they're getting modernized. And there were some places that still had remnants of the war-torn places. I think there is one place that I remember, or I don't know if it's there now, that may have been what I want to call a place you can go and look now and see it yourself. Then they have a Korean War memorial, which you go in and you can see the photographs, you can see uniforms, you can see how things were then and up to date modernization now.
Have you been back to Korea?
Yes. I go back, my wife and I go back at least, try to every 2 to 3 years to visit her mom and family.
What were some of the most difficult or dangerous memories that you had during your duty? What were some of the most difficult or dangerous, happiest sort of memories that you had during your duty in Korea?
Dangerous? No more than anywhere else. Learning to drive in Korea and then being on DMZ, well anyway. Happy times, almost always. I'm human. The human side is you're going to get frustrated every once in a while. But be happy.
Did the war or your tour have any kind of impact on your life after returning home?
Impact, yeah, because I wanted to stay over. Again, more friendly people. They're thankful to the American people. And not only to the American people, but they're thankful to every country that helped them get where they are now.
That they are. In 2013, we witnessed the 60th anniversary of the armistice, which was signed by China, North Korea, and the UN on July 27, 1953. There's no war in modern history that lasted 60 years after an official ceasefire. What do you think we have to do to put a closure on it? Do you support a kind of movement to petition to end the war officially? Or maybe sign it or replace it with a peace treaty, perhaps?
Unconditional surrender, period. It is still an ongoing war. The war has never ended. The fighting stopped, but the war has never ended. And the only way that we'll have a peace will be that North Korea signs an unconditional surrender, period.
It's probably the best answer I've got yet.
I'm sorry?
So that's probably the best answer I've got yet on that one.
Say what you mean what you say.
That's right.
Oh, anyway.
Let's see. Is there anything else that you'd like to share as far as maybe memories or stories or anything that you have during your time in Korea?
Well, wherever you're at, just remember Psalms 118 and 8. Trust God, or put your trust in God. Period.
And do you have any messages for younger generations learning about the Korean War?
Go to the library, go wherever. You got computers nowadays, go to it. Look at whatever is online or whatever is, go back to the history. Second thing is, well, it should be the first, but second thing is get back to the Bible and read what the Israelites went through, what they did, what people back then did. Because that is the only true history book in the world. So saying that would be also to say, obey your parents, obey those that have rule over you, and show the one word is called respect. Because if you have no respect for yourself, how are you going to have respect for yourself? We're in a situation, young kids nowadays, what happened? Is it because your parents didn't teach you something? If you go to church, is not the pastor and them trying to teach you something? I'm not trying to do politics and religion, but they go hand in hand, whether you want to believe it or not.
Do you think it's important for younger generations to understand what happened in Korea?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
If you don't learn something from that, the best, why do I think it's important? Is because you then can hopefully understand what the military does now, where the world is now. Each nation is trying to be free. And the old saying, freedom is not free. And that's very true. Somebody had shed blood.
Do you think that the Korean War Veterans Digital Memorial, what we're doing here, and interviewing veterans is important?
Absolutely. That way hopefully people don't forget.
And why do you think, in your opinion, is the Korean War known as the Forgotten War? What gave it that title, in your opinion?
I wished I knew why they call it a forgotten war. Okay? It's not forgotten. It was in history books when I was in school. So, I don't know why. I wish somebody would tell me as why they think that the Korean War was a forgotten war. It's not. It wasn't. They put it on the back shelf because Vietnam War and then other wars that's happened. But think about how many soldiers and how many military personnel died to the freedom of the Korean people. What if another nation comes to the United States? Are we going to shed blood for our own freedom? Yes. Would we want somebody to help us? Yes. That's my opinion.
there anything else that you'd like to share or speak about?
Get back to God. Put your trust in God.
Awesome. Well, that clears it up on my end. So if you have anything else, now's the time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.